Exploring a document titled Pray to Buddha, which comes from Benny Spirit of Buddha's Practice Incorporated.
That's right. Located in Darwin, Australia, and dated the end of May 2025.
And this document, it offers a really specific perspective, doesn't it, on the power of prayer to the Buddha?
Yes, specifically focusing on how prayer might connect to, well, some really tough challenges in spiritual practice. Things like eliminating deep afflictions, karmic habits.
Things that feel really ingrained.
Exactly. And it also touches on protecting, the process of one's own spiritual cultivation, which can feel quite fragile sometimes.
Okay, let's really dig into this then. It seems like it's tackling two sort of fundamental questions. First, does the Buddha actually have the ability, the capacity to help us with these deep-seated issues, negative patterns, habits?
Right, the really stubborn stuff. And the document directly asserts, yes, that capacity exists.
Okay, and the second question, which follows naturally if the capacity is there,
Yeah.
well, how do you actually connect? How do you receive that help?
How does it become real for you in your practice?
Yeah, exactly. How does it make a difference?
Precisely. So the document, it lays out a case for the Buddha's capability, and then it offers a method, a specific way, it says, for you to connect to that power.
All right, so starting with that first big one, can the Buddha really help? The document says emphatically, yes. All Buddhas can help eliminate these things. Strong claim.
Very strong.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just state it, it leans on established Buddhist scriptures for support.
Okay. Which scriptures?
Well, one of the main references it points to is the Great Spacious Buddha Flower Adornment Sutra.
The Flower Adornment Sutra. Huge text. What does this document pull from it specifically?
It uses this really striking analogy, comparing the Buddha's wisdom to great winds.
Winds.
Yeah, cosmic winds. Like, it mentions a disintegrating wind that can destroy worlds, cosmically speaking, but also an obstructing wind that protects other worlds.
Okay. Destructive and protective forces. Like winds. How does that relate to Buddha's wisdom?
So the analogy is that the Buddha also has this great wisdom wind. And this wind, it has different aspects, different functions.
A great wisdom wind. Okay, tell me more. What aspects?
It highlights two from the sutra. First, there's an eliminating wind.
Sounds powerful.
It is. It's described as being able to clear away afflictions and habits. But the document notes this is mainly for, let's say, advanced practitioners, great bodhisattvas.
Right, people far along the path.
People with immense cultivation already.
Yeah.
But then, crucially, there's the second aspect, the skillful sustaining wind.
Skillful sustaining. That sounds gentler.
It does, and it's protective. It's described as protecting those bodhisattvas. You could infer maybe any practitioner whose spiritual roots aren't fully mature yet.
Protecting them from what?
Well, it seems to prevent that powerful eliminating wind from cutting off all their afflictions too soon.
Wait, why would getting rid of problems too soon be bad?
That's a great question. The implication seems to be that for someone whose foundation isn't totally solid, wiping away everything negative all at once could be destabilizing.
Overwhelming, perhaps.
Exactly. So the skillful sustaining wind suggests a more supportive process is needed earlier on. It sustained you while you build capacity.
That's fascinating. So the help is kind of dynamically adjusted to where you are.
That's what it suggests. It's not one size fits all. Are there other sources mentioned?
Yes, it also brings in a quote, a more concise one, from the Sutra on the Mind Ground Contemplation of the Mahayana Birth.
Okay, what does that one say? It quotes, "May all Buddhas bestow their protection, capable of eliminating all wrong minds."
Capable of eliminating all wrong minds. Pretty direct.
Very direct.
Yeah.
Supports the idea of removing negative mental states, those afflictions and habits, and it explicitly mentions protection again.
Which ties back to that skillful sustaining wind idea.
Exactly. It reinforces both the power to clear and the power to protect.
So, summing up this first part, the document uses these scriptural references, like the Flower Adornment Sutra's winds in this quote, to establish that, yes, the Buddha's power is there, it can eliminate issues, but it works in different ways, tailored to you, and it includes protection.
Right. The capacity is established. The can is there.
Yeah.
So the next logical step is how?
How do you access it? If this power exists, what's the mechanism? How do you tune in?
Well, here it uses another analogy.
Yeah.
A very modern one, actually.
Oh.
It says the Buddha's merits and vows are omnipresent, like television signals in the air.
TV signals. Okay, that's relatable. Invisible, but potentially receivable.
Exactly. They're everywhere, all the time, always broadcasting. The key, it says, is entirely about whether you are willing to receive them.
So it's on us. Our receptivity.
That's the idea. Are you tuning into the Buddha's channel? The signal's there, but you need to tune your set.
Okay, so how do you tune in? Does it give instructions?
It does. It provides a specific prayer for daily practice. This is presented as the way to make that connection.
And is it that phrase we heard before?
It is, yes. The recommended prayer is, may all Buddhas bestow their protection, capable of eliminating all wrong minds.
So the quote, establishing the power is the prayer to access it.
That's the mechanism described. Saying this daily with sincerity is how you try to tune that channel, align yourself.
Okay. And this tuning, this prayer, it can have different effects, you said, depending on your spiritual maturity.
Yes, two main effects, depending on the strength of your roots of goodness, as the text puts it.
All right, let's get into those two effects now. What's the first one?
The first is for those with mature roots of goodness, advanced practitioners. When someone like that tunes in sincerely, the Buddhas can directly help clear away the afflictions and habits.
Ah, so that's receiving the eliminating wind directly.
That seems to be the implication, yes. Direct, powerful transformation for those ready for it.
Okay. And what about, well, probably most of us, those whose roots aren't quite so mature?
Right. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. For those whose roots are not yet mature, whose minds might not be perfectly on channel, may be prone to distraction, doubt.
Yeah. What happens then?
For them, the document says the Buddhas cannot directly help clear away the afflictions and habits themselves. Not at that stage.
Wait, so praying doesn't automatically clear things up for everyone?
Not the direct removal of the issues. No. Not if the channel isn't tuned properly. You're getting static, maybe.
Okay.
However, and this is key. This is where the Buddha's compassion comes in differently. The Buddhas use their power of aspiration, their unwavering vow, to help to add a crucial layer of protection.
Protection like a shield, even if you're not getting the main message.
Exactly like a shield. It ensures that your existing roots of goodness, your potential for growth, your positive qualities aren't damaged while you're still developing.
Why is protecting those roots so critical?
The document really stresses this. Cultivation is hard. Building those roots takes effort. And they're precious, but also easily destroyed.
Destroyed by what?
Primarily by deluded thoughts.
Deluded thoughts, like negativity, wrong views, distractions.
Yes, all that internal noise that pulls you off the channel, that undermines your practice. But it also highlights one specific state as particularly harmful.
Which one?
It warns quite pointedly that being ungrateful most easily destroys one's own roots of goodness.
Ungrateful. Wow, that's specific. Why ungratefulness?
Well, think about it. Ungratefulness is a kind of closed state, isn't it? It blocks you from seeing or appreciating the good, the support you are receiving. It's like actively refusing the signal, cutting yourself off.
That makes sense. It's inherently unreceptive, a barrier you create yourself.
Exactly. But right after that warning, it pivots back to the Buddha's vast and meticulous grace. It emphasizes that all Buddhas, through their compassion and power of aspiration, are constantly working to protect these fragile roots in sentient beings.
So even if your tuning is poor, even if you're struggling with things like ungratefulness, that protective power is still there, guarding your potential.
That's the message. That protective shield is vital precisely because those roots are so vulnerable to our own minds.
Okay, let me try and summarize this bit. Mature roots, good tuning. Direct clearing via prayer. Roots not mature, tuning shaky. Prayer connects you to the protective power of aspiration, guarding your potential, especially against things like ingratitude.
That's a great summary. The help is constant, but its form adapts to your state.
So moving to the final part, what's the ultimate key here? What makes this connection actually work?
It all comes back to resonance. Tuning correctly. Like the TV needs the right channel, you need resonance to receive the Buddha's merits.
Right.
If you can't achieve that clear resonance yet, then that protective shield from the power of aspiration is your essential support. It prevents you from backsliding while you work on improving your tuning.
It buys you time and stability.
Exactly.
Girl.
What if you do manage to tune in better? What if you resonate more clearly?
Yeah, what happens then?
The document states the Tathagata's wisdom, the Buddha's enlightened wisdom, is immeasurable, universally beneficial, and actually fully present within everyone.
It's already inside us.
Accessible within us.
Yeah.
But, and here it uses that blunt language again. It says, all ordinary fools clinging to their false thoughts are unaware and not willing to receive benefits.
Ouch. Ordinary fools. Strong words.
They are, but the point is stark. The block isn't external, it's internal. It's our clinging to false thoughts, our attachments, our delusions. That's what makes us unaware, unwilling.
So the signal is loud and clear, but our own minds are generating too much interference.
That's the core diagnosis.
Yeah.
And here's the promise that follows. If you can abandon those false thoughts, that clinging, if you let go of the interference
Yes.
and become truly willing, truly open to accept the blessings of protection, then the path to awakening, to Bodhi, becomes, it says, remarkably easy.
Easy. Really, after all the talk of difficulty.
Remarkably easy, with timely assistance and support. The idea seems to be that once you remove the self-imposed barriers, the omnipresent help flows effortlessly. The struggle isn't against the path, it's against our own resistance. Remove the resistance and the support is just there.
Okay, so this deep dive into Pray to Buddha, it lays out this framework. Buddha has the power backed by scripture.
Power to clear issues and protect growth.
This power is omnipresent, like a signal.
Always broadcasting.
And prayer, that specific phrase, is how you tune your receiver.
Right. May all Buddhas bestow their protection, capable of eliminating all wrong minds.
And the effect depends on your maturity, direct help if you're ready and tuned, vital protection if you're not quite there yet.
Protection, particularly guarding those fragile roots of goodness against our own deluded thoughts, especially something like ungratefulness.
And ultimately, the key isn't forcing something external, but working internally, letting go of the clinging and false thoughts that block our reception.
Exactly. The challenge and the solution lies within our own minds, our willingness to receive what's already offered.
It's a powerful model, combining the cosmic, the practical, and a very direct look at our own internal obstacles. The help is there, it's just waiting for us to get out of our own way.
Which leads to a really practical question for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on. If this perspective holds water, if the Buddha's wisdom and assistance are universally present like signals in the air, what specific false thought, what habitual clinging, or maybe even what subtle feeling of ungratefulness might you be holding on to right now? What static might you be generating that's preventing you from tuning in more clearly and receiving that support?
All right, so we're diving deep today into this fascinating concept, comprehensive strength. And this all came from you, our listener. You know, thinking about growing in all these different areas of life.
Yeah.
Especially when thinking about permanent residency visas and the work experience and the language skills.
Right.
And the initial advice that you shared with us is kind of surprising.
It really is. It's not what you'd expect at first.
No, not at all. So what is it? What's the gist of this unexpected advice?
Well, you know, when we think about strength, we often focus on our own skills, our efforts.
It's building ourselves up from the inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this source material, it takes us in a different direction immediately.
Okay.
It's all about how we interact with others and where we focus our attention.
Okay, yeah, I see that. It says, instead of dwelling on negativity, I think it even used the word stench, rottenness, disgustingness.
Right. Strong words.
Pretty strong, yeah. The key is to appreciate, praise, and aspire to possess the advantages of others.
Yes. Focus on the good.
It definitely makes you stop and think.
It does.
Especially when you're so laser focused on your own goals.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's some solid reasoning behind this seemingly unconventional approach.
Okay, so break it down for us.
Basically, the idea is that when we get caught up in negativity, we're kind of feeding into it.
Creating bad karma, almost.
Yeah, you could say that. On the other hand, if we make a conscious effort to appreciate the good things we see in others, we start to absorb those qualities ourselves.
So it's less about ignoring the bad and more about actively cultivating the good.
Exactly. It's a subtle but really powerful shift.
I bet our listeners thinking, okay, but what about my own effort? You know,
Sure.
Doesn't my strength come from hard work? What if I don't measure up?
And the source material actually addresses those concerns head on.
Oh, does it?
It acknowledges that trying to do everything alone can be incredibly challenging.
Right. It's a tough road.
It is. And that's where this concept of conditions comes in.
Condition.
Yeah. It mentions something called the 5 roots and 5 powers, which basically suggests that growth isn't just about individual effort.
Oh, okay, I'm listening.
Think of it like a plant.
Yeah.
Right? A plant needs sunlight, water, nutrients, all these different things to thrive.
It's a whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And it's the same for us. Our development depends on multiple contributing factors.
So even just focusing on one line of English or
Mhm.
one small step in the right direction can make a difference.
Absolutely. With the right conditions, it can blossom into something much bigger.
That's encouraging. So it's not enough to just admire good qualities in others.
Nope.
We got to actually express that appreciation out loud.
It's crucial. And there's a couple of reasons for that.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
First, when you say something positive out loud, it reinforces that thought in your own mind.
Okay, so it helps you internalize it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And secondly, it impacts the person you're praising.
It creates a ripple effect.
Exactly. Genuine praise creates positive interactions, good karma, you could say.
So it's not just about self improvement in a vacuum,
Right.
it's about improving ourselves and impacting the world around us in a positive way.
Exactly. And the source puts it beautifully. This practice not only replicates all the wonderful qualities of others, thus perfecting oneself,
Wow.
but also subdues one's afflictions, bringing joy to others with compassion and joy at this moment.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
when we're focused on a goal, like getting a visa with all its specific requirements,
Yes.
we need to consciously shift our focus away from negativity and toward those positive qualities in others.
Yes.
Appreciate them, praise them, even say it out loud.
That makes a world of difference.
It helps us grow personally, but it also builds stronger, more positive connections with the people around us.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. So, a final thought for you, our listener,
Yes.
this week: pay attention to the strengths you see in others,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even tell them what you admire.
I love that challenge.
See how it impacts your own perspective and your own journey of growth.
It's a whole new lens to look through. It really is. And that brings our deep dive to a close.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
See you then.
Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that I think a lot of people struggle. Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and that is anger.
Yeah.
We got this message from a listener who's dealing with their head chef at work,
Mm-hmm.
and they're having some real troubles with the chef's temper. They said it's like over the smallest things and it's making them really uncomfortable, but they also still want to try to help.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they're saying like they're having these really intense feelings of anger, like even to the point of like wanting to break things
Oh my gosh.
and having like angry dreams even.
Wow. That's
Yeah, so pretty
yeah,
intense.
yeah.
And so we found this really interesting Q&A that digs into this, and it's got some pretty unexpected advice. So I think today we should try to like pull out what's helpful from this because, I'm sure a lot of people out there listening have felt this kind of like overwhelming anger in a tough relationship, you know?
Definitely. It's so relatable, this whole idea of like clashing personalities, especially at work. And, it sounds like this listener is really going through it emotionally, right? Like this push and pull between wanting to help, but also feeling so much negativity.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like they're stuck in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, the advice we're looking at here, it starts off with this really like in your face comparison.
Okay.
It asks the listener to think about like how they might have acted towards their own parents
Oh, interesting.
when they were younger.
Yeah.
Right? Like when they lost their temper over little things.
Yeah.
The key point is that even when they had those outbursts, their parents probably still took care of them and loved them and were there for them.
Right.
So then the advice asks this question, which is kind of like, whoa.
What is it?
It's like, if our parents could be that tolerant with us, why is it so hard for us to do the same for other people in our lives?
That is such a good point.
Right.
It totally like flips the script, doesn't it? Instead of focusing on like what the chef is doing, it's more about, okay, how is the listener reacting and how can they adapt to this situation?
Exactly. And the advice really emphasizes this idea that we all have to deal with different types of people and situations. It's just life,
Right.
And it's saying that if we let anger control us all the time, well, it's going to mess with our mood. It's going to mess with our work. And it's especially tough when this person actually wants to help the chef,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how can they actually help if they're letting the anger get in the way?
Totally. And it's like you said, it's not sustainable. And, this also connects to what the listener was saying about feeling guilty and having this sense of like bad karma.
Oh, right.
And the advice here kind of suggests that, we're going to run into these difficult people. It's just part of life. And so we need to learn how to be calm and tolerant. Like, that's a skill we need to develop.
I like that it's like saying, hey, difficult people exist, so how are you going to deal with it?
Exactly. Yeah, it puts it back on you.
So then the advice takes this even deeper.
Okay.
It brings up this whole concept of karmic debts.
Karmic debts.
Yeah. And it specifically says that the way we act towards our parents has a really big impact.
Interesting.
They call those relationships the fertile ground.
Fertile ground. Okay.
Yeah, meaning like it's where a lot of consequences come from.
I see.
So basically it's saying that if we have these negative patterns, especially with our parents, it can create these like recurring problems in our lives.
So like this intense reaction to the chef could be part of a bigger pattern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might be connected to things that happened with our parents in the past.
Wow.
And the advice even says that these issues can keep coming back over and over if we don't deal with them.
That's kind of a heavy thought.
It is. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay.
Because the advice actually gives a way to deal with these karmic debts.
Oh, okay. I'm curious.
It's attributed to Kajapa Buddha. And it basically says that our true nature is like pure and it never changes.
Yeah. Okay.
But our thoughts and our feelings and even our sense of self are kind of like temporary.
Temporary, like they're not who we really are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the advice uses this word illusory.
Illusory, so like an illusion.
Yeah, so what it's saying is that if we can like really see this truth, that our true nature is pure and that these negative emotions like anger, they're not permanent.
Okay.
Then over time we can actually like clear out those karmic debts.
So we can kind of like erase those negative imprints.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we have the power to change these patterns.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening out there, I think there are two big things to take away from all of this.
Okay.
First, think about how tolerant you are with other people, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
And remember how your parents forgave you, even when you messed up. Can you offer that same understanding to others? Even to a difficult chef?
That's a good question.
Right.
Yeah.
And second, think about this idea of karmic debts, especially with your parents.
Yeah.
And see if maybe recognizing that these negative emotions, they're not as solid or permanent as they seem, if maybe that could help you resolve some of those deeper issues.
I think that's something a lot of people could benefit from exploring.
Totally. And it's like, it's not just about fixing the problem with the chef. It's about understanding yourself and your relationships on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
So, this all brings up something else to think about.
That's that.
Where in your life are you holding on to anger or resentment? And if you could try to be more tolerant, and if you could start to see that those negative feelings, maybe they're not as real as they feel.
Yeah.
How could that change things for you? How could that change how you see those situations and how you interact with the people in your life?
I think that's a really important question for everyone to ask themselves.
Yeah, it's about looking beyond the surface and finding a new way of understanding yourself and your relationships.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly.
It's not easy, but it could be really transformative.
Definitely. And I think that's a great place to leave it for today.
Yeah, thanks for diving into this with me. It's been really insightful.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
All right. Until next time.
At Valia, we know a healthy gut means a happy you. So boost your gut health and immunity with Valia's deliciously creamy yogurt, made with billions of probiotics. Get gut happy every day with Valia. From breaking news headlines to that video everyone's talking about and everything in between.
Welcome to your personalized deep dive. You share some fascinating sources. Welcome to your personalized deep dive. You share some fascinating sources on delusive thinking, and we're going to unpack that together. Have you ever felt like your mind is sort of hijacked by anxious thoughts you can't control? Like it's not even you thinking, it's just this mental machine running on its own. That's what we're exploring today. And your sources dive right into the Buddhist perspective on this.
It is interesting how these sources frame delusion. We often think of it as something extreme, but they suggest it's these subtle, everyday distortions of reality that can really mess with our lives.
Okay, so not like full-blown hallucinations.
Yeah.
But more like the stories we tell ourselves, those assumptions and judgments that we make without even realizing it.
Exactly. And to explain how this works, one of your sources uses a computer analogy. It compares the mind to a computer system with a hard drive, software programs, and a CPU.
I'm intrigued by this analogy. Break it down for me. What's the hard drive in this mental computer?
The hard drive represents what Buddhists call the eighth consciousness. It's essentially the storehouse of all our experiences and memories. Every sight, sound, feeling, thought, it's all in there.
So it's like our personal data cloud, but for our entire lives.
Yes, and one source gets even wilder, saying this eighth consciousness isn't limited to our physical brain. It's like a field that pervades all space.
Wait, so it's everywhere, like some kind of cosmic hard drive.
That's the idea. And to make it even more mind-boggling, they compare it to DNA. Think about it. The karmic information that shapes our lives, it's literally within each cell of our body, kind of like a blueprint that's woven into us.
Okay, that's getting pretty deep. But let's stick with the computer analogy for now. If the eighth consciousness is the hard drive, what are the software programs in our minds?
This is where it gets really interesting. The software programs are those reactive emotional patterns that distort our perception. Think greed, hatred, arrogance, and doubt. They're not just static files, they're like dynamic programs that color how we see the world.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it's not that these emotions are inherently bad, but it's when they take over and run the show that things get messy.
That's a great way to put it. For example, let's say you see a delicious piece of cake. Your greed program might activate, making you crave it intensely, even if you're not actually hungry.
And if someone else gets the last slice?
Cue the hatred program, making you feel resentful and maybe even angry.
I could definitely relate to that. Okay, so we've got the hard drive, the software programs.
Mm-hmm.
What about the CPU? What's that supposed to represent in this mental computer?
The CPU is our thinking mind, or what some Buddhist traditions call ignorance. It's the part of us that retrieves data from the hard drive, makes judgments based on input from those emotional programs, and then spins elaborate stories to justify our thoughts and actions.
So it's like our CPU is constantly making calculations about what will bring pleasure and avoid pain, even if it has to fabricate scenarios to do so.
Precisely. And here's where the real trouble starts. We think we're in control, making conscious choices. But a lot of the time, this whole process is running on autopilot.
Hold on. You're saying we're not actually in the driver's seat of our own minds? That's a bit unsettling.
It can be. And it all starts in childhood. As kids, we're like little sponges, absorbing information and learning how to manipulate language and behavior to get what we want. We might tell a little white lie to avoid trouble, or exaggerate a story to impress our friends.
So those seemingly harmless childhood fibs, they're actually early training in delusive thinking.
In a way, yes. Because as we get older, these small deceptions evolve into more elaborate narratives. We start crafting stories about ourselves, our relationships, our future, and we get so caught up in these mental constructs that we lose touch with what's actually happening.
Like those daydreams we have about our dream job, the perfect partner, the ideal life. We can get so fixated on these mental images that we forget to actually live in the present.
Exactly. And the scariest part is this process becomes so ingrained that it runs on autopilot. We think we're making conscious choices, but really it's our delusive thinking calling the shots.
So we end up living in a world that's largely shaped by our own mental projections, which may or may not have anything to do with reality.
That's the risk. And one of your sources describes what happens when this delusive thinking runs unchecked. They compare it to a computer screen suddenly displaying a chaotic jumble of images, videos, even, well, let's just say, unpleasant things.
Okay, so instead of a clear, focused stream of thought, it's like our mental CPU is malfunctioning, spitting out random, often disturbing content from our hard drive.
That's a good way to visualize it. And our everyday habits contribute to this chaos. Every time we mindlessly scroll through social media, dwell on irrelevant things, or let our minds wander aimlessly, we're training our CPU to be messy.
So it's like we're cluttering our mental hard drive with junk files, and then we wonder why our system is running so slowly.
Precisely. And this jumbled hard drive makes it easier for delusion to pull random, often unrelated memories and thoughts together, creating even more mental suffering.
It sounds like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Our delusive thinking creates chaos, and that chaos feeds back into more delusive thinking. But thankfully, your sources don't leave us hanging. They offer some potential solutions for breaking free from this trap.
Yes, they do. In fact, they outline 3 distinct methods for changing our relationship with delusive thinking. They call them the Arhat method, the diligent bodhisattva method, and the lazy bodhisattva method.
Those names are intriguing, and I'm sure our listeners curious too. Let's unpack each of those, starting with the RHAT method. What does that entail?
The Arhat method is the most direct, but also the most challenging path. It involves completely eradicating those troublesome software programs, greed, hatred, arrogance, and doubt from our mental system.
Wow, so it's about achieving total mental purity, like wiping the hard drive clean and installing a brand new operating system free from those problematic programs.
That's a good way to put it. And this state of complete liberation from those negative emotions and thought patterns is often described as a state of nirvana or enlightenment.
That sounds like a pretty lofty goal. Is it even realistic for the average person to achieve that kind of mental mastery?
It's definitely not easy. The sources describe it as a path that requires immense discipline, dedication, and a willingness to completely transform your way of being in the world. But they suggest it is attainable for those who are truly committed to the journey.
So it's less like a quick fix and more like a lifelong mental marathon.
That's a great analogy. But what about those of us who aren't ready for a full-blown mental marathon? Are there other options, maybe approaches that are more gradual and accessible?
That's where those other 2 methods come in, right?
Yeah.
The diligent and the lazy bodhisattva paths. Tell me, are those as intense as the Arhat method?
Not necessarily. They offer alternative approaches to working with delusive thinking, and they might resonate more with those who aren't seeking complete eradication of those challenging software programs.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued to hear more about those. Let's dive into the diligent bodhisattva method first. What makes this path different?
The diligent bodhisattva method takes a different approach. Instead of trying to completely eliminate those ingrained patterns of greed, hatred, arrogance, and doubt, it's about transforming them.
Transforming them, so not erasing them completely, but somehow changing how they operate in our minds.
Exactly. One of your sources compares it to rewriting the code of a software program. Instead of uninstalling it entirely, you learn to tweak it, to redirect its function. For example, instead of trying to suppress greed, you learn to transform that energy into non-attachment.
Okay, that sounds intriguing, but I'm not quite picturing it. How does one transform greed into non-attachment? Those seem like opposite things.
It's a process of shifting your relationship to desire. Instead of clinging to possessions or experiences, you learn to appreciate them without being defined by them. You can still enjoy that piece of cake, but you don't let the craving control you.
So it's about recognizing that these desires are part of the human experience, but we don't have to be ruled by them.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to the other software programs. Hatred can be transformed into focus, diligence, arrogance into humility, and paralyzing doubt into a healthy sense of inquiry.
So it's like we're taking these powerful, often destructive energies and channeling them into something productive.
That's a great way to put it. One source uses the analogy of harnessing a wild river.
Hi.
It was definitely Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what.
Instead of trying to dam it up or divert its flow, you learn to work with its power. You build a system of canals and turbines that can utilize that energy to generate something beneficial.
I like that. So we're not denying these emotions. We're not even trying to repress them. We're learning to redirect them in a way that serves us. But how do we actually DO that? It still sounds pretty challenging.
It does require effort, which is why it's called the diligent bodhisattva path. But it's a different kind of effort than the Arnott method. It's about cultivating mindfulness, being aware of those moments when those software programs are taking over, and then consciously choosing a different response.
So it's like becoming the programmer of our own minds, learning to identify and rewrite those lines of code that have been running on autopilot for so long.
That's a great analogy. And now, for the approach that caught your attention earlier, the lazy bodhisattva method.
Yes, I'm all ears on this one. It sounds appealing in theory, but is it really as lazy as the name suggests?
Well, it's not about being passive or avoiding effort altogether, but it does offer a different kind of path, one that emphasizes surrender and reliance on a higher wisdom.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does this surrender work in practice?
The source material describes it as a process of wiping the slate clean and installing a whole new operating system, one that's based on Buddha wisdom.
So instead of fiddling around with those old buggy software programs, we just start fresh with a whole new system. That does sound easier in a way.
It can be, but it still requires effort. The first step involves acknowledging the harm that our delusive thinking has caused. One source calls this repentance, not in a guilt-ridden way, but as an honest recognition of the ways we've been caught in those unhelpful patterns.
So it's about taking responsibility for the ways our thoughts and actions have been driven by delusion without beating ourselves up about it.
Exactly. It's about clearing the way for a fresh start. And then comes the exciting part, installing the Buddha Wisdom Program.
Hold on, Buddha Wisdom Program. Can we just download that from the App Store?
Not quite. But the idea is that through practices like meditation, study, and ethical conduct, we can cultivate qualities like discipline, concentration, wisdom, and compassion.
So instead of relying on those old, glitchy programs of greed, hatred, and the rest, we tap into a whole new set of mental resources and tools.
Precisely. And this Buddha wisdom operating system is designed to help us see the world more clearly, make choices that are aligned with our deepest values, and cultivate a greater sense of peace and well-being. It's like upgrading from an old, clunky computer to a state-of-the-art machine that can handle anything.
Honestly, after hearing about all the mental chaos that delusive thinking can create, this upgrade sounds pretty tempting.
It is a powerful shift in perspective, and it reminds me of a question that wasn't explicitly addressed in your sources, but I think it's relevant. What if, instead of viewing our minds as machines, we saw them more like gardens?
Ooh, I like that analogy. It feels more organic, less mechanical. So, in this mental garden, what would we be cultivating? Weeds of delusion or seeds of wisdom?
That's a wonderful image to consider, and it highlights the power we have to shape our inner landscape. By understanding the mechanics of delusive thinking, we can choose to cultivate a more peaceful, fulfilling inner world.
What a great point to end on. So much of this deep dive has been about recognizing those mental patterns that are often running on autopilot and then realizing that we actually have a choice in how we respond. It's empowering to realize we're not just stuck with those default settings.
Absolutely. We have the power to choose what we cultivate in our mental gardens, and that choice can make all the difference in our experience of life.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into delusive thinking. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, may your mental gardens flourish.
Get into the good guys and don't miss these deals. Get this higher oven $4.99. This Westinghouse dishwasher $5.49.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. I have to say, these sources you found for us this time are really something else.
Yeah, I thought so too when I first saw them. It's a pretty interesting mix. We've got like these personal notes and then some serious philosophical stuff too. It's almost like
Yeah, it's almost like we're getting two stories at once. You know, we've got this guy, Brad, and we're seeing his personal struggles play out. And then we've got these bigger philosophical questions about like truth and clarity and all that.
Right. And it seems like Brad is really trying to find answers to those questions too, especially after his separation from his wife.
Yeah, you can really feel the rawness in those transcripts. Like he's just pouring his heart out to these advisors. It's kind of heavy stuff, to be honest.
Yep, it is. It is. It's like he's lost in this whirlwind of his own thoughts and emotions. And he's just grasping for something to hold on to. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling, though. You know, when life throws you a curveball and you just feel totally overwhelmed when you're drowning in it.
Absolutely. It's a universal human experience. But what's so fascinating here is the advice Brad's getting from these advisors. It's so practical and grounded. Like, focus on your work, your family, keep things simple.
Yeah, but there's also this recurring theme about letting go of what they call delusive thinking, right? What exactly does that mean?
Well, they're basically telling him to stop getting lost in these unproductive thought patterns. You know, all those what ifs and anxieties that just keep you stuck in the past or worrying about the future.
So instead of getting caught up in all that mental noise, they want him to focus on what he can actually control, right?
Exactly. It's about being present, grounded in reality. And there's this really interesting comparison they make to Elon Musk's first principle thinking. Have you heard of that?
I'm familiar with the term, but I could use a refresher.
Okay. So basically, it's about breaking down complex problems into their most basic truths, like stripping away all the assumptions and conventional wisdom and getting to the core of things.
So like how Elon Musk questioned why rockets were so expensive and ended up figuring out ways to build them more efficiently by challenging every single assumption.
Yeah, exactly. And even though Brad's not trying to build a rocket, you can still apply that same principle to his situation. You know, like, what are the fundamental truths of his life right now?
Okay, so instead of focusing on what he's lost, he should be focusing on what he still has, like his skills, his health, his relationships.
Exactly. It's about building from a place of strength